now we're proving we don't need corporations. We don't need money. This can become a commune where everyone just helps each other. Can't you imagine a place where people live together and, like, provide services for each other in exchange for their services?
Yeah, it's called a town.
You kids just haven't been to college yet, but just you wait.
I swear to God, stupid people who think they're smart make me want to eat my own shit.
What is up, space pirates? This is your admiral, the hilariously heinous Dr. Disaster, and Obsidian has a lot of nerve thinking they can lecture people about the evils of capitalism in their game Outer Worlds 2, while pushing out a physical copy of this game which basically doesn't have the game on it. For the Xbox physical version of this game, it literally is just a box with a digital code inside, which you would have to be a massive fan of the game and or just a hardcore collector to go out and purchase. But the PS5 version is not much better. The Outer Worlds 2 has a disc, but if you check out the headline here, they will tell you that this isn't much of a physical release because the disc itself only contains 1.32 gigabytes of data, while the game itself is about 77 gigs in total.
Ah, horseshit!
But meanwhile, Obsidian, the developer of Outer Worlds, they think that they have the moral capital to lecture everyone about capitalism and how they believe it's apparently just plain old evil. Obsidian showed their hand last year when Avowed was on the brink of being released, and they waded right into a massive controversy. The art director of the studio, among other Obsidian employees, insulted Elon Musk and a bunch of other gamers who noticed the pronoun system in their game, and we said we didn't like it. But their arrogance clearly cost them a shitload of sales because their loudmouth employees at Obsidian have been radio silent on social media ever since then.
Shut up, bitch!
Well, Outer Worlds 2 sounds like it's just another opportunity for Obsidian to prove that they are a bunch of immature jackasses who don't understand the real world. They're just a bunch of hippies who don't understand what currency is, and yet they think they have the writing chops to lecture us about this shit. Meanwhile, the actual corporate greed that they are engaging in, with the physical discs being basically just a glorified download code, that may have cost them some sales in a world where they need every sale they can get. Over in retail, a number of people have already gotten refunds on their physical copies of the game in response to this news, and apparently it's not an insignificant number of people so far. And let's be clear, Obsidian has no right getting mad at anyone who wants to refund their game. After all, they wouldn't want someone to suffer at the hands of evil capitalism. Am I right?
Just standing up for my rights as a consumer.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've had a lot of people tell me that they've been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel, so make sure you look into that, and also, give me a follow over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster1, and if you feel like supporting the channel and helping keep the lights on, consider becoming a member for as little as $5 per month. Anyways, let's take a look at the insufferable lecturing that Obsidian is trying to sell us, and then we will take a gander at how the game is doing on the open market. This article here comes from Game Informer, where they got an interview with members of Obsidian. It says here, when The Outer Worlds launched back in 2019, it featured humorous but often sharp writing, highlighting the pitfalls of capitalistic ideals and the way markets interact with leaders in power. The Outer Worlds 2 promises even more of that, with a new governing trio fighting for control of the colony of Arcadia, and your Earth Earth Directorate hero somehow in the center of it all, with The Outer Worlds 2 launching on October 29th, or as early as Thursday if you buy the more expensive Premium Edition. And I've just got to pipe in here and say that the fact that at this news that there is an expensive Premium Edition, that they didn't include some quip here about Obsidian's hypocrisy, well, that tells us everything we need to know about the intentions of this article. This would have been a perfect moment for them to talk about how the game is already $70 and it's ridiculous to think that somebody would have to pay even more to get the full game, essentially. And the fact that they didn't do this, that they didn't talk about it at this moment here, is telling us that this is a puff piece meant to entice people to play this turd. It is not a serious piece of exploratory journalism. But anyhow, they tell us that they had a chance to speak to Obsidian, and then it says, unfortunately, those things haven't fixed themselves. I'm shocked. Creative director Leonard Boyarsky sarcastically tells Game Informer when asked about capitalism's role in The Outer Worlds 2. And let me just butt in and say that the things they're talking about in this game are not a product of evil capitalism. They are a product of humanity in general. Corruption happens even in these perfect communist utopias as well. But when it happens there, they just say, that wasn't real communism, or that wasn't real socialism. Real communism, real socialism, that has never been tried. Trust me, if I were in charge this time, we'd make it work. Yeah, I'm tired of these midwits blaming capitalism for all the evils of the world without any pushback. These morons are simply too retarded to actually go around lecturing anyone. But then the quote continues, "These are kind of unfortunately timeless themes that we have to deal with, and we kind of always deal with it in our games. We've always been involved in themes of power and balance, and it has to do with people having power and what they're going to do with that power, and it's generally not good for the people who don't have power. Whether it's the Protectorate, who is full authoritarian and makes no bones about being a complete dictatorship, or it's Auntie's Choice, which is trying to find this better way of spinning things so you feel like you're working for yourself, but you're still basically just helping them out. Once again, the things they're talking about are not exclusive to capitalism. They are things that people do in general. Powerful people and organizations will always exploit not so powerful people, even in hippie-trippy commie utopias. In fact, especially in hippie-trippy commie utopias. But on the subject of shitty things that powerful people do, let's look at the effect of this news that The Outer Worlds 2's PS5 physical copy is basically just a digital copy with extra steps. I reached out to my contacts in the retail spaces to see if anyone was talking about this. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, I used to own a retail store which sold video games, and I still have contacts in retail spaces with people who run and have access to the data of nearly 50 stores who sell games, and they often feed me pre-order data so that we can see how well a game is performing compared to its contemporaries. As an example of what I'm talking about, in these stores last year, we talked about how Space Marine 2 ended up selling a little over 200 pre-orders, and that game went on to sell a few million copies in its first month, being a sales juggernaut. There was a lot of enthusiasm. Meanwhile, in those same stores, Dragon Age the Veilguard sold just under 90 pre-orders, and they struggled to reach even 1 million units sold in their first month. The data that I got helped me predict that Ghost of Yotei would have a muted launch this year. It isn't a perfect science, but this method of tracking pre-order data helps to identify trends in the market. It helps identify enthusiasm, and Outer Worlds 2 does not have much enthusiasm at all. With about a week to go before the game launches, in these retail stores they have sold only 30 copies of Outer Worlds, which is not good at all. It does happen to be more than Avowed, which ended up with 17 pre-orders, but that game was only on one system. It was only an Xbox release. But just yesterday, in these stores, there were 4 refunds already for Outer Worlds 2, and all of them happen to be PS5 copies. That amounts to around 13% of the total sales that they had for the game. I doubt that number will extrapolate out to the market at large, but still, it is very telling that we saw 4 PS5 cancellations immediately after hearing this news. The game has just broken in to the top 50 bestsellers on Steam, which is pretty bad for a major AAA launch like this, a week out from release. Outer Worlds looks like it's on pace to have a worse launch than Avowed, which had over twice the number of followers for it when it launched. Outer Worlds looks like it's destined to struggle big time. And now, invariably, there are always corporate ass-kissers who like to come on into my comment section and go, well, actually, this is a Day 1 Game Pass title, so that is why the game is going to have crappy numbers. But I'd like to point out that Claire Obscure Expedition 33 earlier this year sold millions of copies, despite also being a Day 1 Game Pass release. Same thing with the Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster, and same thing with Stalker 2 and Hollow Knight Silksong. When a game comes out that people actually like, they want to do more than just rent it on Game Pass. They want to own it. They want to have the software for themselves, and yet every time the chuds identify a game that they are not interested in, a game like Avowed, for example, which has sold around 300,000 copies in almost a year's time, why is it that a game like that always sells like shit, and we have to hear a whole bunch of, actually, it's Game Pass's fault excuses? Why does that happen? But I doubt I will get a good answer from anyone who thinks like that. You shouldn't expect too much from the sort of jackasses who are still childish enough to buy into the communist talking points that capitalism is the root of all evil. Anyhow, I'm gonna leave it there. What do you think of all the hypocrisy going on surrounding this game? Drop your mockery of Outer Worlds and Obsidian into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.